Hi, I'm Starfleet Boy, and this is Boat Wreck. I super love that new theme song, by the way. It's very cool.
Oh, thank you.
Is it new? I don't think it's new.
No, I've had it for a long time.
It sounded new somehow. It sounded
The program I used to create it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, wow.
So today we're going to be talking about Terra Firma Part 2. And of course, there are spoilers in this discussion. And first off, Starfleet Boy, I want to hear your initial thoughts on Terra Firma Part 2. Did it live up to Part 1?
Not the way I thought, but yes. Which Discovery's been doing that to me this season. So, yeah, it did live up to it. I thought it actually, for me personally, may have even exceeded it, but I definitely see it as a complete package. I'll always watch part 1 and part 2 together from now on.
Yeah, you know what? I thought in retrospect after seeing the second part that this episode would have had a better impact on me personally if it was a feature-length episode. And because it was such a big episode for Michelle Yeoh's character, exiting the show, that they would reserve, that would have been cool to see, like a 90-minute feature-length episode of Discovery. But the thing is, when you divide this one, I know it's serialized too, but this particular story divided up, considering that there is a good chunk at the end of part 2 that doesn't involve the mirror universe. That goes on with all the stuff with Saru and Admiral Vance and the burn and all that. I would have rather just a whole a long episode just focused on Giorgio's journey alone, because the burn stuff they put it in the background anyway. So
they put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Earl Grey Trekkie's here. He says hi.
Yo, Robbie. Hey, Robbie. Have you seen Discovery? Because he was watching The Mandalorian first on Twitter. I saw that.
Well, this will contain spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
So it picks up where the last episode left off, of course, directly after Mirror Burnham is captured, put in the brig. Giorgio's objective is to torture her to the point where she submits her allegiance to her again, which she does, but it's a trick. And instead, she betrays Giorgio, but Giorgio half expects it. And there's also a little story with Saru and how she reveals to him that the
I can't even say it.
How that's a hoax, and I like how he mentions that. Oh, but those were only fables. So at least there's mention in the Kelpian society of, if you wait out the culling or the Vaharai, that you will actually become stronger. And the whole scene where the two Kelpians come in, guns blazing, and fucking Saru takes out Culper and throws him in the ceiling. And you keep forgetting, because sometimes they don't always make it clear, but there are always these moments in Discovery in these past 3 seasons where they show you just how strong Saru really is. And
they even did that last season when he crushes the phasers, right?
That was in season 1.
Sorry, first season. Yeah, he crushes the phasers
Civis Possum Parabellum. Civis Pacum Parabellum. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Earl Grey Trekkie doesn't mind spoilers. Blue Spark or Spurk?
I think he said so, but
Blue
I always
Spirk.
say
Blue
Spirk.
Spirk.
I like that, actually. It's very Bjork says it. It's the way Bjork would say it.
It's nice and quiet.
Spark. I think Swedish meatballs are called sparks.
The inside of a TV looks like a little city. It looks like a little city.
It does. Yeah, I definitely would have loved it to have been. I think that was a thing I heard a few folks saying, where it it would be nice to see it back to back. I wish all the shows nowadays actually gave you the option to do a no credits rewatch. Like I would love to watch, like, I know that, and then you get like mega credits at the end or something, but I would like to watch a lot of these things like uninterrupted by a credit sequence. I was disappointed. I know a lot of people like the. Sorry,
no. Go ahead. I think
I didn't get a chance to say this on my stream, but I was kind of disappointed that the mirror credits weren't better. Like
I was thinking.
Oh, you were in the same thing. Yeah. Like they were just basically the same credits as Discovery, made upside down and turned inverted in color. But they should have had like the badges should have been the Mirror Universe badges, right? Like it was like kind of little details. It should have been the Charon maybe flying across, or something like that I would have appreciated.
The thing with that is they should have not done anything at all,
right?
You know what I mean?
But the fact that they did made me realize that, like, yeah, it should have been more.
It's just inverted, turn it upside down. It just did nothing for me.
And like Enterprise did that, right? Like they had a whole different sequence. It was like dark things that
they
were
did
highlighted.
They actually
right?
put like a lot of effort into their alternate.
Yeah. Kudos for the effort, but not executed.
But parts in this episode early on with the mirror stuff I really liked is the whole torture of Burnham and how she's like won't relent. And I think she planned from the beginning to take it for so long and then submit. Like her plan, I think the whole time was to submit and then betray her, which as soon as Giorgio starts trusting her again, I'm like, no. And the whole sequence, like the passage of time, she's in there for a couple of months. And I get that the actress can't starve herself to make her look like she's actually been starving. But they could have done some CG work if they had probably a few extra bucks, you know what I mean? Like to sink in her face or to show that she was real.
Yeah.
Because I didn't quite get didn't seem like a couple of weeks. I'm sorry. It didn't seem like a couple of months. It seemed like a couple of weeks. The torture stuff, you know what I mean?
That felt more believable. And I agree with you. Like, it would mean she was starving for 3 months, essentially, right? Like, I guess maybe starving for a month and then another 2 months for the killing spree that she goes on, getting all the other, people and stuff like that. It's just, I didn't see that passage of time. I had to think about it a little harder.
I think that they talk about Culber force feeding her, and I think they just give her nutrients like supplements or something.
That makes sense.
To keep her alive.
That makes sense. Like Ensure, like through that.
Well, she should have lost a little bit more, body fat, because
I agree.
She's pretty. I'm not saying like the actress has got weight on. I'm talking about like just when you're being
in general when you're tortured and undernourished.
Yeah. But you don't expect an actor on a TV show to go to those lengths. But I like Giorgio's quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really nice, and how she's watching Burnham on the old kind of TV.
Yeah, that was
cool. It looks very retro and very TOS style. But here's an image of Burnham being tortured right here.
Look at that.
Sonequa Martin Green must have a headache after a lot of the scenes that she does in the show, because
I think if Star Trek Discovery took place in the Mirror Universe, Yosef or some people would be complaining that she screams all the time instead of crying all the time.
I'll kill you all.
That was great, though. I loved it. Did you think...
Ooh, Trek on the Tube is here.
Hey! By the way, everyone go check out...
he can join.
He can join. Nice. Everyone go check out Trek on the Tube's Mandalorian review. He's wrong about one thing, but everything else is great.
Okay, we can't talk about Mandalorian yet.
Yeah, I know. We're not going to talk about it. Kelpian Freedom Fighter, yes.
Just for the people who are here right now, we will be talking about the Mandalorian after this, but we won't be spoiling anything until we get there. So if you haven't seen it, you can bow out. But I don't imagine how you haven't seen it if you're at the least been interested in it. But anyway, unless you have a busy day, you probably haven't seen it yet. You shouldn't be on the internet at all. I completely avoid it.
I totally failed you once, though. You got a little mad. I'm sorry about that, but I understand how that feels.
I didn't get really mad. I was just kind of kidding around, dude.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm not a tyrant mirror person.
I'm gonna kill you for spoiling it. Ah! I try not to. I try not to be a spoiler, but sometimes people. I even put a post up, and I love everyone who engages with me. So no critique. Do whatever you want. I just think it's funny. I put a post up that said, "No spoilers, please. Tell me what you think without spoilers of Star Trek Discovery." And I think someone posted spoilers in the thing, and I was like, "No!" Ah! But it was all right.
Hello.
Yo.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Ooh, yeah, it's a.
Yeah, you're on
You're
an old
from the
CB
mirror
radio.
universe. You sound like Carl.
You sound like you're transmitting from very far away.
Is this not good? I'm trying something with like headphones, and there's like a built-in mic on the headphones.
It's
Yeah,
good enough.
it's
It
good
just doesn't
enough,
sound
yeah.
like your ASMR self, like from.
We can
like when
pretend you're
like-
from the mirror universe. It's like a transmission from beyond.
It's just like I gotta stay in the living room and take care of baby, but
Oh, that's
Aw,
cool. That's
good.
cool.
Don't.
We're just about to talk about the Guardian of Forever.
God. Ooh, nice! You got a picture of it. It looks so good. I
Now-
love the updates to the Guardian.
I know you
No.
guys don't want to talk about Mandalorian right away, but I just love how
Oh,
this.
God.
I just love how Discovery does this big thing, like, "Hey, we brought back this," and then Mando's like, "Hey, yeah, but we brought
No,
back
no,
this."
we can't. No. We can't.
Oh wow!
We can't.
Yeah, he didn't say it. He just said this.
This part of the thing is specifically for Terra Firma, and anybody who's
Oh, okay.
watching now who hasn't seen the Mandalorian, if you know,
That's
just
fine.
in case, you know what I mean.
That's so
just-
respectful.
And like I said, I can't imagine they wouldn't know by now, but if you're on the internet at any point in the day, because it's fucking everywhere. But yeah, it's crazy. But this Guardian of Forever, what was your interpretation of how they handled that? And was it a violation of TOS canon? The fact that now it's a being that can basically be on the run, and it can embody like this humanoid thing.
Can
And
I
now
say something
now
about
it can
that?
create alternate timelines. What?
Can
Go
I say
ahead.
something about that? It can't be a violation of TOS canon. The show set in the most distant future gets to define whatever the hell they want
Oh yeah.
about it. So actually, it's an addition to canon. It's not.
So you
a
would view it as
violation.
an evolution of that character from
Correct. Whether I
TOS
like it or
to
not,
TOS times.
whether I like it or not, it is. There's no debate about canon or what the Guardian should be or what it shouldn't be. Like it's totally up to Star Trek in this time period to decide whatever it wants about these characters. Now, if Picard brings the Guardian and it's doesn't fit quite with this, like, then there's some arguments that can be made. But it's also still 900 years ago. There's a lot that could happen.
Yeah. Well, I still don't understand the motivation. I guess the Guardians somehow knew about Giorgio and said, "Okay, you don't belong here. We got to do something about that." So I'm going to make it my mission. And
I think the sphere and the Guardian are more connected than what we think.
mm,
And that's perhaps why the sphere sit like these very ancient kind of beings or life forms or entities that exist in the galaxy. Maybe they know each other, or they know about each other. And so in some way, if like the Guardian knew that they were sent by the sphere data or
okay.
by the remnants of the sphere, so maybe like it connects them in that way.
The
I
Guardian
have no problems with how they showed the Guardian of the Galaxy
of the galaxy.
Guardian of the Galaxy,
I-
Guardian
I-
of Forever. I got no
I
problem
do,
with that.
do give them credit for having the actor or the character explain himself, like why he's there and why,
Yeah, that was
to a certain degree.
surprising.
But it's just, and also you kind of got to accept these godlike, omnipotent beings that pop up in Star Trek, because it's kind of a tradition at this point. So it's almost the thing like it's silly to almost like think too much about a question. But this Guardian specifically creates an alternate timeline. It creates a temporal incursion on purpose. It's a test, but he really does send her back in time. And it's not a thing where her brain goes into her past self. Like, she physically replaces the Giorgio that was up to that point. So in effect, does the Guardian like kill the old Giorgio? Or I don't know, but it's an interesting thing that now even he acknowledges
There are
like,
many versions of us, PJ.
the Kelpians, Saru will go on to help more Kelpians. It's like things will go on in that timeline now. So the actual Giorgio now that was there is dying, and that's a whole separate thing. Do you think they'll ever in the future, like season 4, ever acknowledge that timeline again?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I don't think so.
Well,
I think we'll be seeing where Giorgio ended up. But this specific kind of time incursion that we've seen in this episode, I think that was. I'm still in the camp that it was like an illusion created.
Like it was all undone.
Yeah,
Well,
it was.
I don't
It
think
was
it
like
was
a very.
I don't understand why the Guardian would then say that Saru would go on to help more. Like he's sure of that happening.
I don't think it's an illusion. I just think it's as simple as like they spend a lot of effort explaining the temporal incursion to us. So in the minds of the writers, I believe, and I'm assuming this, but it's a I think what I would call like a fair guess. But in the minds of the writers, they went out of their way to explain the temporal incursion, to call it all that. So this was clearly how they're like justifying what was happening here. So it's a totally different offshoot of the mirror universe. I don't think we'll go back to it. If we do, it would be neat to get a I just don't see us going back to it. It would be neat though, because maybe Saru gets interested now and has to go see it. I don't know, but but yeah, it's definitely something that really happened. Like I don't think it was an illusion. I agree that it happened because she has 3 months of bio data on her wrist thing. She like it to herself it felt real, whereas like Tapestry, I don't know, I guess Tapestry is the closest thing we could talk about, right? I think that also could very well have been a temporal incursion that the Q did, and then he just brought Picard out of it at the end, just like Carl did. So I agree. I think actually the whole Tapestry thing still fits, but now I retcon believe that Q created a temporal incursion and created a whole separate timeline that no one just cares about it afterwards.
So let me ask you guys this: do you guys think so? If this is not an illusion, it's a temporal, kind of like a temporal bump, I suppose. That kind of it reset. You're saying it reset the timeline in the sense that Saru goes on to become a freedom fighter.
It doesn't reset any timeline. That's the thing. It's
yeah.
It adjusts. It adjusts.
The most logical or the most simple language they use now in a lot of time travel is that to avoid the conflict of interfering with the future, you can just say it's an alternate timeline. That's all you have to do. And what the terminology they use in the show and the season is temporal incursion,
right,
which they use to refer to the creation of the Kelvin timeline. So now they have an alternate mirror timeline, which is somehow like positively influenced by this Giorgio character, right? That now Kelpians are not going to be called anymore in this universe.
So I have a question about that.
It would be interesting if in season 4, they just to solidify and kind of put everybody's mind at ease about what really happened here, is that you have an entire episode with completely alternate credits that you actually put some effort into. And it has nothing to do with the Prime. It's completely set in this alternate mirror universe, right? But it's like, what happens when Prime Discovery meets this version of the mirror universe, and see how that plays out. Because remember, in the original Prime mirror universe, the Discovery gets destroyed. Lorca has that accident where he gets switched over. Who even knows if Lorca will get switched now in that accident? You know what I mean? Like, the possibilities are endless for like a juicy little season 4 side story completely set in this alternate timeline. And then you see Discovery meet them, and circumstances turn out completely differently. So the audience knows by the end that, okay, this is obviously not an alternate thing. You know what I mean?
I think it's better for a short trek, but yeah.
Short trek would be awesome, yeah.
Like, I just don't think... I like that it's a temporal incursion. It's an alternate timeline, even to the mirror timeline that we're used to, and then we're done with it, and we can just move on. Like, there's really no reason to go back.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sean. What was your question earlier?
I've got two now, but I guess my two questions. My first one is, all of the Mirror Universe episodes that we then see in the original series and Deep Space Nine, are those in the are those in the timeline that we just created in this episode of Discovery, or are they in the original, dare I say, mirror universe timeline that we saw in the first season of Discovery?
The
And
way I would
second, and
go
the
ahead.
second question, did the Discovery writers purposefully make this second mirror universe timeline uh, closer to our prime timeline just so they could carry on crossing over with it in the 32nd century? Because it seemed like in the 32nd century they could no longer go to the mirror universe because it was so distant.
Well, I think the Guardian negates that, right? Like I think the Guardian can do whatever it wants to.
Perhaps the
Um,
Guardian has a harder time sending her now to the mirror universe than he would back in time and over. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
sending her back would when they're more aligned. Like at the end, what year do you think he sent her back to? By the way,
there was like whatever takes place, probably like a few years before, maybe a year before the
I think
events
it's
of season
just
one.
post finale of season 2.
what?
What?
Star?
Oh, you mean
What?
sent her back at the end? Sorry, I thought you meant like in her
Oh, in the mirror, yeah.
in her. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Yes, I do agree with that. I agree with that. What Sean said.
You know, it'd be cool if she, if, if there, actually, thinking about this now has me more interested in the Section 31 show than I think I've ever been, because I haven't been all for it. You know what I mean? I didn't really care.
Yeah, I wasn't too
But
plussed about it either.
Well, they've managed to sell me on Georgiou leading it now. That's a big thing because
because
I love Michelle Yeoh and I think she's amazing, but her Emperor Georgiou has never been something that I've been a fan of. You guys know that,
yeah,
and so I
yeah.
was a bit worried about her leading the show. But this, is it a redemption arc or is it just we've come to better understand the character, or she's really changed, I suppose. And I don't know. I'm more excited to see her evolution than I've ever been at this point.
It would be interesting to see if the first scene in the Section 31 show was like the very last moments of season 2 finale. You know what I mean?
I want the
And
trailer for the
they
show to be her falling out of the Guardian somewhere else.
fly
Falling
into
like she's
space and freezing and dying.
Oh no! What a dick, this Guardian. He just killed her.
But
I
you know what I would love to happen for you see Discovery go through, right? And like you're on Laurel's ship with Tyler and her crew, right? And all of a sudden the doors open and there she is. And Tyler's like, "Oh, I thought you were," and she either doesn't say anything. I think it would be best if she doesn't say anything about where she's been. She should keep all her knowledge about the future secret and all this stuff, because she would create, like, in effect, an alternate timeline again. So
it
they're
would
messing with
explain
time.
it would explain why Section 31 kind of has all this advanced technology though. Like if she does, I mean, you can't help. I don't know that Giorgio. She's a, what do they call her in one of the episodes? She's an engineer or something, right? Like she has those skill sets. Like earlier, they established that or something. Remember when they're repairing the?
She does have engineering skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't help but think that like they'll explain, because Section 31 already has like crazy advanced tech in Discovery season 1 or season 2 rather.
Season 2, they have the comm badges like TNG, right? So they're already like
They already
100 or
had
200 years in
they already
advance.
had comm badges like TNG. They already had uh I think site to site transport, right? And then they had like all kinds of, I mean, like the freaking ship was beyond anything. Their ships come apart and they're like a million little drone ships or whatever. All that stuff is like stuff we haven't seen before, even
Ugh.
though say your French vowels. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I wasn't the biggest fan of like all the
I
detachable ships and what have you and that fight thing.
Yeah.
But I agree that they like it's shown that they have like, I suppose, stealth drone looking ships. They've got very much advanced tech. And I guess if they were to continue down that route, having this engineer, but then Giorgio's not from the future. She's from their time. So she's an engineer from the mirror universe, but she doesn't have that like expansive knowledge about tech
Right.
from the
I don't think
future.
she's gonna be able to
Unless
bring.
she brought back what is it? Changeable
I
matter
mean,
or whatever.
I mean,
programmable matter.
she still has, I
Programmable
think, her
matter.
badge. I think she has her comm badge with her, and she has the phaser from the future with her.
No,
Remember, it turned in.
she'll pop out in her underpants. Guardian made
Yeah,
sure that she
made sure of it. But
yeah.
if not, she definitely has that phaser because remember it turned back. It turned into like a into a gauntlet or whatever. It turned into her like arm piece or whatever. So she has that. She has the comm badge, and there's a few other things. So just alone with that technology, they could probably that actually is altering the timeline, perhaps. But again, it's all Section 31, so it's behind the scenes. It's not
You
like something
could
that you see all the time.
the I know people complain about the Section 31, how it's portrayed in this particular Discovery verse, and how it's very in everybody knows about it. It's in the open. They have black badges, like they're just in your face. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be covert and like secret agents and shit like that, right? So what I think they should do if they get into the show is have Tyler leave Laurel and go with Giorgio, and they get recruited, and it's like, okay, guys, this is Section 31, but this is the real deal now. Like, your identities are erased. Like, people don't even know you exist. Anytime you appear anywhere, you are either in disguise or there's some kind of illusion where they don't really see who you are or something like that. So, like, you could have an opportunity for the actors to always be in, like, alien makeup and, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that.
In like doing various characters and what have you.
Yeah, like,
I would like to see a even if it's just a transition. I'm all about the transitions. I want Strange New Worlds to transition the Enterprise into the one from the original series, but I want Section 31 show to kind of transition into the covert, very secretive Section 31 that we came to know in Deep Space Nine, right?
yes, tie that up. Like, fix
Yeah.
that little inconsistency. Well, I guess you can't call it an inconsistency if there's space to tell stories, but tie it
Can
into
I
what we saw in DS9.
can I give a
Yeah,
temporal
I like
incursion?
cleanups.
Can I have a temporal incursion moment here?
Go ahead.
This is just the thing. Sean and I were talking offline about this, and like I try to keep Star Wars and Star Trek separated, so I still do, not comparing the universes here, but when you watch a show like The Mandalorian and how like perfectly it fits into the era it's meant to be in, that's just what I wish for Star Trek. I wish Star Trek had done something more like that from a production sense. I'm not saying I'm not enjoying the series. I love Star Trek and I love Star Trek Discovery. I'm just saying like it would have been even more of a
It'd be
thrill.
satisfying to not, to just you take what's happening at face value. You don't have to think about how it fits in or that kind of. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like it's just a pure it's yeah, exactly. It works on a subconscious level, right? Doesn't it? Like
Exactly.
it's like something that's just a pure. You can remove that from your thought and focus 100% on like the story and the characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've often said that if you take episodes of The Mandalorian and you put some, that bullshit film grain and film scratches over it and make it look like kind of like
Change the aspect
1970s,
ratio.
or, well, just even make it look like an old film, you would totally buy that it was filmed in the 70s.
When you
In a
watch
lot of
Return
parts.
of the
Some parts
when
are
you
like really
watch
grand, though.
when you watch Return of the Jedi and you see like a print of it that's like restored or cleaned or whatever, it's like so high quality. I mean, I think that like, A New Hope has that because
Okay.
but like, yeah, we won't get into that.
No, well,
We're gonna jump. We're transitioning. Okay.
We've already covered everything. Giorgio's gone. Bye bye, Giorgio. You're a pain in the ass. Good riddance. Section
I do want to
31.
defend, I do want to defend Star Trek just a little in that regard because I'm exactly like you and maybe more like you, Starfleet Boy, and that like you know that I
You're
want my
more.
continuity and I want my
Yeah, yeah,
details,
yeah.
but in Star Trek's defense, we are talking about like before Discovery came along, there were already what like six different shows, 13 movies. They're all written, produced by different teams, different people. Star Wars, and I'm just talking live action. Before Mandalorian came along, had maybe what is it, 10 movies, and that's it. So they have, and I know there's a lot of expanded universe stuff, but Disney made sure of killing that for you know some certain extent. So it's like there's less timeline shenanigans, there's less continuity to kind of look after, I guess. And so it is more complicated, I think, to really fit in every single nudge and every single crack and every single detail in Star Trek.
That's very fair. I
I'm just trying to defend it a bit. I do agree with you though, and you
it's
know
but
that.
isn't that's just the thing? Like, I mean, I'll always
I think it's
agree
part of
with.
the challenges of writing. Then
Yeah,
again, I'm
I
not a
think I
professional
think it's
writer. I
the
don't know how
opposite. I
complicated it
think
really is.
I
But
think Star Trek Discovery is written beautifully actually, and it fits in that. Like I've often said in my previous discussions, like if you just close your eyes and listen to Star Trek Discovery and imagine whatever you want in terms of
mm,
how the setting is, it's actually done really well, and it actually holds up to like canon. And there's very few infractions or there's things where they bend stuff or whatever, but like just again, I'm not saying I disagree with it. I think it's fair that like what you said is exactly fair, and I agree with what you're saying. It would just have been an additional enhancement had it been truer to the expected look of the era. That's all.
And speaking of sticking true to the expected look of the era and staying true to fans and giving fans actual good fan service and actually creating a show where the creators are like, let's do something that will constantly blow the fans' minds, and we don't care how servicey it is. We're just
I
gonna
was going
do
to
it.
be talking about Supergirl.
We're gonna do it. Bring in more Martian Manhunter. Yeah. But yes, of course, we're going to talk about the Mandalorian season 2 finale.
Da 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 da.
Da 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 da.
That they did like that
Dubstep,
glorious It was epic from start to finish. I just want to say the music, like in that opening, even the music was like a higher, like they went full orchestra for it, right? Like they
They
just
did
like
it in the
totally.
previous one too. They upped the
Yeah,
game. They've got like these variants now on the theme. They've got the
yeah,
epic
yeah.
variant. They've got the sad variant. They've got all these.
Dubstep variant, as you said.
Hey, look, I
Um,
love the music on all of these new sci-fi shows that we're getting. All of them that I'm watching, I love the music, and I think all of the themes are fantastic on them.
music
Except
is at
maybe
an epic
Picard.
level. Oh wow, really? Oh my god. You just know how to like. You just know how to get me like to start. You're like.
Okay, anybody who has not seen The Mandalorian, what the hell are you doing listening to a discussion about it? But of course you've seen it, and of course you know all the big spoilers. We'll just
Huge
fuck
spoiler.
it. We'll just get right into it.
Luke
They
fucking
got
Skywalker.
Mando teams up with Boba Fett.
Michael Burnham comes out of a wormhole.
Oh God. We're not talking. We're not crossing the streams now. We're talking
Wait,
about the
what?
other.
Can I?
We're talking about the other Star franchise.
We'll talk more about it on Starfleet Boy after dark, but instead, the Enterprise E comes out and beams them out of the bridge of the Star Destroyers.
I'm sorry, PJ, we've hijacked you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So you're confusing the audience.
Yeah, it's
They're
true.
like, are these
sorry.
guys talking about Trek or Mando now? Fucking make a decision, guys.
Okay, it's Mando. Mando now.
Sorry, Jill. Sorry, Jill.
Live long and prosper, buddy.
Uh,
Yeah, so he teams up with Bo-Katan. Is it Bo-Katan? Am I saying that right?
Bo-Katan.
Katie Sackhoff. I gotta. You know what? After this episode, I was for sure I'm gonna get started on Clone Wars and Rebels and all this stuff. Like I'm right into it now. I want to see where
Nice.
Bo-Katan came from. And fuck, man, you have a show where you have Boba Fett, and you've got the Death Troopers, and you've got that awesome fight between Moff Gideon and Mando, which I thought was the climax of the episode. I'm not shitting you. I was like, oh, that was good. Oh, that was a good I was almost like at that point, that's a good season. There you go. Well done. And then the Death Troopers come back, and the anticlimactic disposal of them through the airlock was like, oh, okay, cool. I guess that was like a funny joke, I guess, right? Like they built them up and then they disposed of them. But what happened?
I actually thought they would come. Like I knew that
Oh, no,
they could
I
fly
didn't
through
even
space. Really, that's funny. Like
I'm
I was
watching
like,
this. I'm watching this whole episode like an idiot, like not expecting anything.
I love it. I love it.
I was kind
anyway,
of a mix of both.
Hold on.
But
I got to do the summary.
Go. Sorry.
The Death Troopers come back, and it's like they're going through the door. And by the way, Mando gets the dark saber, and he's trying to give it to Bo-Katan, And Moff Gideon's like, ha 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 ha, you fools, don't you know? You have to win it in battle. Yes, I'm delighted. And he tries to kill
I
Baby Yoda.
study. Oh my god.
He tries to
I
kill Baby
studied
Yoda.
wand lore on Harry Potter.
So anyway, the Death Troopers are pounding at the door, and they're, like, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna save them? I thought, like, okay, the only person that's gonna come now is Ahsoka. I didn't even realize what was going on when it was happening. I'm not even joking. I was in denial. The X-wing goes by. I'm like, okay, sure. And anyway, it's a Jedi. Okay, I'm just going to show an image of how it builds up. I have some images prepared. A lot of this stuff you see on the screens too, which I absolutely love. And then you get a closer look.
My
you
sister,
you see the hand in the lightsaber, and
Oh, it's
goddamn,
yeah.
God damn it, if it isn't Luke, goddamn Skywalker deepfake. Anyway, guys, go ahead, express your thoughts.
I
wanna say-
was gonna say that I was in the middle of you guys with the ejection. So one of you believed that the Dark Troopers were ejected and that was it. One of you knew that they were coming back. I was ready to complain. I was like, but it's so stupid. They're just robots. They should be able to live in space. And then I forgot about them completely. I was like, oh, I'll complain about it later in my video. But then they came back, so it was fine. That was me.
Go ahead, Starfleet Boy.
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry. When I was first, do you guys know that guy Star Wars Theory, the channel Star Wars Theory? If you don't
No.
know it, it's just it's a dude who's like he's super huge. I watch his channel a lot because some of his theories are really interesting. He goes into like really deep lore about Star Wars and stuff like that. So I've been watching him for years. But I didn't watch the 3-hour live stream that he did, but they showed there's clips you can just go and watch when he reacts to this. That was me, the same exact thing. I was like screaming at the TV. I was like crying like a baby. It was like a very visceral, emotional experience for me because as soon as it was just one single X-wing, I knew. I was like, it has to be Luke, but I still didn't believe it. I was like, they could be doing anything. And there's even one part where like, I was like, oh, maybe it's that one Jedi. But when I saw the green lightsaber, because, I thought it could have been Ahsoka maybe, but she doesn't have an X-Wing. I was like, no, it's got to be Luke. It's got to be Luke. But once they showed his lightsaber and the green lightsaber, his gloved hand, and then the other hand, not gloved, I was like, that's 100% Luke. And unlike Trek on the Tube, his fighting style gave away to me that it was Luke too, because I was like admiring how the fighting style that they created for Luke in this time period was like Anakin and Obi-Wan's fighting style, like kind of combined, like, which is exactly what Luke would do. I mean, there's like moments. I mean, it's so deep and so layered and so nuanced. Like it echoes things from Rogue One, like when you see Vader go through the same corridor, and it has like it's like a tone poem of that, and it kind of like parallels that. So I was just totally like in a complete moment of like. It's very rare to experience this, but like I was in a complete moment of like bliss. Like I was taken back to when I was like a little kid, and I just watched, and then afterwards I watched that scene like 12 times, and it took me like the 10th time before I stopped crying and getting emotional because it's just so great to me.
Yeah, I totally felt a kind of like a fandom for Star Wars that I really haven't felt in a long time. Like, holy crap, you're giving me Skywalker kicking ass, much like Rogue One gave us like the true Darth Vader.
Yeah,
This
like
is
how
like the true Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do it in just a couple of minutes.
Saying. I've never felt a deep emotional like fandom to Star Wars the same way I've felt with Star Trek. But watching The Mandalorian, especially in the second season, I've felt more and more connected with Star Wars. So unlike you guys, I don't understand that it's necessarily Luke when I see one X-wing flying around. To me, it's just a ship, and I knew though that it was a Jedi because the Jedi didn't come in the previous episode, and so I was like, okay, so the Jedi didn't come; they're just stalling. The Jedi's going to come later. They're going to pull a Spock with like every episode. You think Spock is coming in the shuttle?
Yeah,
it's not.
Exactly.
And I thought the Jedi, it has
Nice.
to, and so when I saw the ship go by, the X-Wing, I'm like, I don't know who this is, but it has to be a Jedi. And what gave it away to me, because I'm very simple, is it's a green lightsaber, oh well, that's a Luke lightsaber. That's me. I'm like, oh, it must be Luke, just because
The
it was
mo-
green, right?
there's a moment in the scene where when I realized, and it was late because it's when they do the close up of the gloved hand with the lightsaber. I'm like, oh, okay, that's Luke, and I was still thinking, but it could be somebody else. You know what? I wasn't. I was
There's a
in
character, and
denial.
I can't remember her name right now, but there's a character. The silhouette looks a little bit like another character from that some people were speculating was going to be the Jedi that appears. So the silhouette in the cloak resembles this character from the Clone Wars animated series, and I can't remember her name. Damn it! But she like leaves the Jedi Order, so I thought that might have been an interesting thing. I went through the whole gamut of like they can't because I was like they're not going to put Luke in it. There, you know, like there was a part of me that was just like, it's not going to be. That would be too amazing, like too obvious, but too amazing. But the way it was done was just like, yeah, it's not like a surprise per se to for some people, but it was like a surprise in the sense in that you didn't know. I didn't know that it could be pulled off. I guess is what I'm saying. Like putting Luke, especially after like the controversies of the way Luke is portrayed in the sequel films, like I have to admit that I still like, even though I think Ryan is a genius, like I think like the Last Jedi is a beautifully made film. I still had like I had fundamental disagreement because Luke is such a beloved character. I felt that it would have been more okay to not have him be flawed, for him to continue to be this like kind of like, you know, epic Jedi throughout his whole life. This kind of retroactively corrects that for me. Like
Did
I'm
you feel
okay now.
betrayed from that by that film?
No, I didn't feel it seriously in that sense because I enjoy seeing a perspective that I didn't expect. Like, you know what I mean? Like on the one hand, I was like like proud of Star Wars for doing something brave, but I just didn't agree with it. Like I was just like, oh no. And then the fact that Mark Hamill himself was like kind of like, well, I actually thought I was going to be in The Force Awakens. You know what I mean? Like to hear
Well,
his own
he called that Jake Skywalker, didn't he? There was a whole thing where he said that's not Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, it's Jake Skywalker.
it's
He says,
Jake
I don't know who
Skywalker.
that.
Yeah, and there's just like because you can understand that. Like, imagine growing. Mark Hamill has been. It's been his. You know, he's a great actor, but that's his most famous character. And thank God he did the Joker because he lightning struck many times for Mark Hamill, so he has a huge he kind of did something for the Joker that no one ever did either. But like but Luke is it's like he was like just a young performer at the time, and what he did, like regardless of whether you personally feel about Luke is an iconic figure throughout like the world. Like many people look to Luke as a source of purity and like goodness and like how to excuse me, how to be. He's like a genuine hero. I mean, like he redeems a character that should be irredeemable, and it's his father, and it's just like the whole tragedy of it and the epicness, right? Like all of that is imbued in Luke. So when you are going to see this character again after 30 years, you like your expectation is to see an evolution of that, and all you see is like a sad person who does do something really epic and heroic at the end, but there was like 20 years, like 15 years of life that he just kind of like wasted, where he could have been out saving, you know, the galaxy and so on and so forth. And so it was disheartening, I guess, is what it was to see that. But
I think The Last Jedi is the best of the new trilogy.
it is, no, again, I think it's a superb film. It's just I'm saying personally, I understand.
I know the whole disappointment thing with Luke and how they wanted Luke to be the hero, and there was a big complaint that I found a lot of different people had about The Force Awakens. In the Force scene, when the lightsaber flies, a lot of people wanted to see Luke catch it and save the day and be like badass Luke, and that's how he was introduced into the new trilogy. And people didn't get that in Force Awakens. It's like, okay, we're gonna get that in The Last Jedi then, and there is some of that, but it's a nuanced film that like has some silly parts like the Canto Bite stuff, but the stuff with Luke, it's a great character study. And
Yeah.
the fact that now the Mandalorian can show Luke in his prime, just briefly, even if briefly, it kind of reassures you that there were so many years of his life where he was just like
He was great. Yeah.
the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the Last Jedi. I don't know if this is what the problem that people have. Just the film is not bad.
You can't hear Sean. Your connection's really bad. You're cutting in and out. We can't hear you. Try
Sean.
Try coming back.
Go and come back. Oh my gosh. It was nice to see Luke.
Spoilers for who actually played Luke in the episode. We can't hear you, Sean. You're just like zero. Just leave and come back. It'll probably reset. Hey, can't. Okay. Look. This is the guy.
I put in the private chat. Yeah, he doesn't look too far off by himself. As he's pretty close. I think Sebastian Stan would have been perfect though.
This is just to let everybody know, this is Max Lloyd Jones. He's the actor who actually played the physical Luke Skywalker, and they did the deep fake or CG mask of Mark Hamill over him. And excuse me, you actually do. It is actually Mark Hamill's voice that you're hearing.
And they de-aged that or did something to it, because Mark Hamill doesn't sound like himself.
They probably did something with it, but
it was brilliant.
He's credited anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and that was great too. I think that I think that again, I think that this movie I'm calling it's Mandalorian just feels like a movie though. It's just so good. And what I like about this too is that well, what do you think? Now I'm really fascinated about what happens between here and the Force Awakens. To me, it's now there's a world of stories. I don't think you could do a show unless you get an actor like Sebastian Stan who plays Luke Skywalker and does a whole new rendition of him. I don't think you could get a show where you're just doing deepfake all the time, right? I don't think we'll ever get a Luke Skywalker show, right?
This stuff is best suited for cameos, and one of the biggest mistakes of Rogue One is not recasting Moff, and his name is escaping me. The old man,
Moff Tarkin. He's actually Grand Moff.
Grand Moff Tarkin.
Tarkin, yeah. Peter Cushing. I actually, it's funny. I was really impressed with it. I love Peter Cushing, and I know even the estate complained. I think his own family complained about it, but
it's off-putting to have a character have that much dialogue. And the way they do Luke here is they have him say just enough and move just enough, and they have these off-screen. They have these shots where his head is not seen. You just see the and R2D2 comes in.
Yeah,
and Grogu.
R2 fills in a lot of the exposition you could want. That was just
did
another
you not
treat.
love that?
Loved it. Yeah.
How Grogu and R2 are talking to each other.
Yeah, they're immediate. Grogu's immediate interest. That's what kind of gets him to kind of realize, oh, maybe this is fun. And R2's always represented that fun element, of appealing to R2. If you think Luke is great, R2's the best too. Right? The pairing of them is awesome.
Shake. He does that kind of shake because he's happy to see.
That's true.
Go ahead.
I was just more praise. They crushed it. I just felt that was really good.
I think season one of this show was the best show of 2019. I think season 2 was the best show of 2020. And this image right here.
Funny.
Spoilers.
It's funny. I don't remember being this in love with the show at the end of season 1. I remember being really hyped and really loving and being very impressed with The Mandalorian season 1. But coming out of season 2, I'm like, this is the best thing I've seen this year, right?
It's fantastic.
I'm loving it.
This moment right here between he takes his helmet off again, and you're like, oh wow, what an appropriate moment
meaningful
for that to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Robbie, you're taking your first steps into a larger world, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, and I'm excited for your diving into Star Wars. I think it's exciting. To me, it's exciting that this made PJ want to go and watch the expanded. Well, they're not expanded. It's all part of Star Wars, but the animated series and stuff like that.
Which I had virtually no interest in before.
Yeah.
And so now it's exciting. I got to watch, and I do I do it randomly. I pick random stuff just to see what it's like. But
It's
yeah,
true. Blue, I adore Luke Skywalker. That's the thing about, like, I think, like, as a kid, that's, everyone was wanted to be a certain character of whatever when you were a little kid. I always wanted to be Luke Skywalker. Like, from when I was a kid, I always wanted to be him, play him. Like, I used to always, like, some people dressed up in a cape and pretended to be Superman. I would dress up as Luke Skywalker and defeat the the bad guys and stuff like that. And I always had a laser sword on the ready. And I just think he's a meaningful character. I think the prequels made him, like, even, like, I already had a love for Luke Skywalker and Leia. I have to say, like, it's actually both of them. Just something about the twins, both of them. Like, there's something about both of them that's so magical. And if I give the prequels, with all the critiques I may have about the prequels, like, meeting their parents, like, it, like, enhances that experience. Like, the fact that, like, I know a lot of people hate, like, that George Lucas inserted the no at the end at the end of Return of the Jedi with Vader and all that stuff. But now when I watch the ending of Return of the Jedi, I can't help but think that this is, like, I can't help but think of Padme. I can't help but think of the birth of the twins. Like, all those events are very meaningful, and, like, it just, like, kind of builds and adds layers, like I said. So, like, seeing this moment in Luke Skywalker's history is just it just, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's
all right. Well, let's move on to the fabulous post credit scene that sets up a limited series, I assume, which is called The Book of Boba Fett.
I want to finish on one thing and just say this is kind of unrelated, but Agents of Shield, the show.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Agents of Shield, the show, didn't do enough of this kind of stuff. If that show had some Iron Man and some Captain America,
they had
tie-ins.
They had a Nick Cage. What is it? Nick Fury cameo.
They had one Nick Fury cameo that was talking about, like, a fish tank. It's like that's not enough to make your show really feel connected. And this was fantastic.
One more thing I want to say about the main story and the whole Luke reveal, and the aside from, like, the emotional goodbye of Grogu and Mando, I lost my train of thought. What was I gonna say?
You were gonna say one more thing about the departure of Baby Grogu with Luke.
Oh no, yeah, you really see that Moff Gideon is kind of like a pathetic little coward. He actually tries to blow his own brains out at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And the girls are like, no, ain't having that. And I love the whole thing about, like, all the girls, all the women team up, and they're like, and the action was so well staged. And I want to say that Peyton Reed did a great job directing this episode.
Yeah,
and you know what?
Yeah,
it's so little about the actual script and the dialogue, and more about, like, just the pace and the flow and the urgency of everything, and the suspense.
Because this wasn't a heavy dialogue episode, but it was just the cinematography of it all. Like, it was just beautiful to watch, wasn't it?
Moff Gideon is the one that speaks the most in the entire episode. Moff is the one that speaks the most, and his dialogue is delightful. And he's a pathetic little worm. He's I like how that is revealed, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Peyton Reed, I didn't realize, directed another episode this season, which was The Passenger.
Okay.
And of course, everyone knows him as the director of Ant-Man and Wasp.
Oh, so that was the real Luke. Is it the same Luke after Obi-Wan died? Yeah, this show takes place a few years after the events of The Last Jedi.
I believe it's actually The Return of the Jedi.
I mean, what did I say?
You said The Last Jedi.
Oh, shit.
And I believe it's 6 years after Return of the Jedi.
Well, all these movies have the same name.
Yeah, the similar names.
I can remember 13 Star Trek movies, but I can't get my Star Wars names right. So I know exactly what movie is what episode, so I just call them the episodes. But
the original name of Return of the Jedi was Revenge of the Jedi, I believe.
That's correct. That is right. There's even posters that were printed. Mark Hamill actually, because George Lucas thought Jedi, it's not befitting of a Jedi to seek revenge, which was the reason why they changed it. So they called it.
That's why Revenge of the Sith makes more sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why and he named it that. And Mark Hamill, there was an interview that he reshared on Blue Peter, which is a British kids program, I think. So from like the around the time Empire came out, and he even calls it Revenge of the
Revenge
Jedi,
of the
because that's
Jedi.
how, like, in the interview he says the next movie is called Revenge of the Jedi. So it was like a last minute change, but yeah, that was the reasoning behind it.
Okay, so you get this post-credit scene where they go to Jabba's palace and Bib Fortuna is there and he's gained a lot of weight and it's like it looks just like it looks just like it did in Return of the Jedi.
So good.
And Fenric, is it Fenric?
Yeah, I think it was Fenric.
And
yeah.
Boba Fett walk in and he's like McClunky. And,
He says McClunky. I was so happy about that. McClunky.
and I like how he just kills him and just throws him off the chair
Boom.
and sits down. And then it's like a big announcement for a Boba Fett series coming in 2021, December.
The book of
And
Boba
there will
Fett.
be a Mando season 3, and there will be an Ahsoka series. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely insane.
I am so
There's
glad that
just like home runs.
I'm actually really relieved that the kid is out of the picture, because it caused me so much anxiety week to week, like wondering if he was going to be okay. And now he's the safest he could be. There's nowhere safer
Exactly.
until Kylo Ren comes along.
So good. What great simple, and you know what I love about this show? It's great storytelling, but it's incredibly simple. Like you don't.
He's gonna die, right?
You don't have to rack your brain about anything
he
that's
won't.
going on. You know
Well,
what I mean?
he will. He dies, right?
Who, the Grogu?
No.
Not necessarily. It's going to be Kylo's only 4 years.
They're
Ben
saying
Solo's
that
only
they're
4
saying
years
that
old.
Grogu will get burned later by Kylo Ren and all this, but
I don't think so. I think he leaves his train. I think he gets trained. I don't know how long the Mandalorian is going to run, but we will see the return. I think Mando is correct when he says, "I'll see you again." We will see the return of Grogu. Maybe it'll be in a season or 2 seasons. Maybe we'll do a whole season without Grogu. Maybe a couple seasons without Grogu. And then I do think that much more trained.
A
I
teen.
don't think
a
we're
teen,
ever
a
going to
teen,
see him again.
Yoda's.
We
I would
never,
be honestly, that would
Never.
be great. I think that
Never.
would be just fine. Like,
He.
But you know what I think? I think there's
confirmed as a Yoda clone, right? At this point.
no. He's
Well,
a member of that species. Ahsoka Tano makes that clear.
But the other guy was a cloning. It was said for the first time, I think, in this episode that he was a cloning scientist or whatever it is, right?
No. The whole point of taking Grogu was to get his blood to somehow harness the midichlorians, or the M count they call it.
yeah.
Yeah. But that guy is
Pershing. You're talking about Dr. Pershing.
Yeah,
Yes.
they might clone him. There could be a storyline in the future.
I think the
I
blood's
thought
on
they.
the
I thought they.
the blood's
I thought
on
he
that.
was literally a clone of Yoda.
No.
Grogu.
Grogu, because they establish in the episode The Jedi, they established that Grogu was raised at the Jedi Temple and trained by many masters. So Grogu was not a clone of Yoda. They're the same species, but what they're trying to
That
do
doesn't disprove it, though, does it?
What do you mean?
like
That he
it
was
would be
killed?
hard for me to believe that Grogu is a clone.
Oh, you mean a clone? Yeah, no. He's
Yeah.
there are other members of Yoda's species that exist, but
Wait,
apparently they're
so-
very rare. Like
Yeah.
they're almost like an endangered species. But when Ahsoka Tano talks about Grogu, and she mentions that I knew another of his species, referring to Yoda.
Yeah, she's referring to Yoda. But Toddy, are you saying you think the baby Yoda
Was literally Baby Yoda.
was like literally a clone of Yoda, or you think that the Grogu was replaced with a clone by this guy? I don't think any of that.
I don't know. I was thinking that perhaps this doctor, whatever his name was, someone that was before him, had found a way to clone Yoda,
No,
and
Yoda.
and that's why they wanted to get him back so much. But maybe he's just some random.
They
of
never had
species.
he
There's-
never had the child before. The
Yeah.
first time they ever get the kid is in the first season when Mando goes back and finds the kid on the table, like almost drained of its blood, to
Right.
the point where That's the first
Oh,
time, and it's
oh,
that
there's
blood
something
from
I
the
completely
first. It's
misunderstood. I thought they had him way before that
no,
originally.
it's that blood that then in the second season you see used for these malicious, messed up
What looks like
experiments.
it could either be a clone of the Emperor. Well, it's not a clone of the Emperor. What it looks like they're either trying to create Snoke because there's like a weird the thing that's in the tank has like a weird crack on its
Mm.
head, just like Snoke. So I
And
think
there is a theory that Snoke originates from Grogu's blood in the first season of like, and they also get him back, so they do drain him more. They get more of his blood.
well,
So
presumably the blood is aboard this cruiser, so hopefully the blood doesn't get into. But yeah, either way, I think it's going to be even more nefarious. There's probably going to be other Jedi that do get captured, and they take their M count and use it to create Snoke. But for now, Grogu is safe, and that's all that matters because it caused me so much anxiety week to week. Like I couldn't sleep sometimes thinking about what's going on with little baby Grogu.
and it is a possibility that Grogu could be the descendant or child or relative, which would not be a stretch because there's so few of them.
Jedi might be allowed to reproduce if they're endangered species, right? Is that the
I
That
mean,
seems fair.
you know what? I don't ever buy that crap that Jedi don't get down. Jedi get down all the
They
time.
don't
It's
get their
just
they don't get their bang on.
they're just not meant to be promiscuous. They're meant to kind of live like monks or some shit. When really, it's just like a situation with Luke living on an island by himself. Like he's just not gonna get laid anyway. But if you know he had a honey there with him, he'd be macking it. You know, someone his own age, someone close to his own age. I mean, you know, not like Ray or nothing. He's not gonna. I'm not trying to make him out to be a creepy old man.
It just hit me, but the milk that he was drinking alone on that island was the same color as the macaroons that Baby Yoda was eating, right?
That's the ingredient of how they made
oh my God.
That's how you make the space one.
Space macaroon.
it.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Okay, let's get in. Well, what do you think the Boba Fett series is going to be about? Because there was talk a couple of years ago of, and there were actually lots of scripts developed for an underground series. Like it's like all about Star Wars criminal underground, like Godfather of the Star Wars world. And it seems like Boba Fett is that guy. Like you come to me in the day of my daughter's wedding, and you ask me this favor. You know, he's gonna be like him and Fenric are gonna just rule.
It would be more like you come to me in this. You come to me asking for a favor.
You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding.
We didn't even
That
talk.
makes him
asked-
Australian. That makes him
asked me-
Australian, though.
And ask me this favor.
Can you do an impression, Sean, in your Kiwi accent of
Can you do an impression of Boba
clone-
Fett?
clone Boba Fett?
Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it.
By the
I
way,
can't do it.
it's really sad that the actor who played Boba Fett died like at the heel of the at the
Yeah.
premiere of this episode.
Crazy.
Considering that we got such a great Boba Fett moment in this episode. I do like also the callbacks to Star Wars when he's calling Bo-Katan princess. I love that. I think that's like that was like a nice like nod to how Han Solo kind of calls Leia that like in a almost like a kind of like a playful / goading kind of way, right? And so I hope we do see more of Bo-Katan. I think they said that Bo-Katan might show up in the Rangers series. I hope so.
Maybe.
Yeah, it
But
might
I
be
think,
cool.
just a little bit of speculation, I think season 3 should pick up like literally right where it left off, because it ends on the doors shutting and they're still on the ship and they still have to deal with Moff. I don't want them to skip over that. I want them to go right into like Mando puts his helmet back on immediately because
Moff
he
Gideon's-
ain't having none of that.
Moff Gideon's an awesome villain because yes, he is very twirly mustachio like in the performance, like you have like there's a lot of that.
Yeah, but
But
him as an actor is
knew-
able to handle
Yeah.
it.
But
it's
not
not
only
like
that, the
it's not like
character.
Michelle Yeoh when she's given certain dialogue. It's like, no, that's not for you. I mean, you're great, but like that doesn't fit you.
Well,
But this
Well,
fits.
Giancarlo Esposito is basically like he's the king of villains at this point in TV shows,
He's
right?
so typecast. Yeah, I know.
he's so typecast. That's funny. But regardless,
But it's fine. I'm fine with it. I love him as
He's
that. I don't
great. He's
like
so good.
what's the other guy's name that's also
he
a villain
knew.
in every movie? Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh yeah, he is also.
See, I'm not sold on him
Ben
as a villain.
Mendelsohn is always in everything. That's my
everything.
Ben Mendelsohn
but
impression.
just going back to Moff Gideon,
And
one
he's
thing
always just him.
I really enjoyed was that he knew exactly what would happen. He was like, "Oh, you're gonna spare me now. This will be interesting, right?" Because he knew that like Bo-Katan had to win the saber, so he knew that like Mando was effed in a sense, or at least Bo-Katan was effed. So it wasn't like, and you could tell Bo-Katan doesn't know what to do. She's like kind of. So I like the idea of it taking, it continuing where it left off. And how do you think it's gonna finally get resolved? Now, spoilers for the clone, spoilers for Rebels. There is precedence that you can just give the Darksaber to someone. Like, so I don't know what's going on exactly here, but like it might have something to do with the fact that like she was shamed into it, and in Rebels it's not really, it's like kind of like maybe on the down low. I don't know, but
I think some point in season 3 or even the first episode they're gonna have that fight, and I think this is the way they're gonna handle it. It's gonna be a thing where he's like, well, I guess if you gotta fight me, and they do fight, and he gives it his all, but maybe he lets her win and just to make it look good, but it has to be like a public thing. But then
yeah, it makes sense.
Then letting her win would still be not honorable. So like it has to come to some kind of heated
Maybe
conclusion.
she's better than him. Maybe she'll decide to spare him.
I was getting to like she bests him and then says, well, I'm gonna spare you, and he's like, here you go, and then the best of friends. Because there's gonna be tension. There's gonna be tension between them until that's resolved, and I think they're gonna get that out of the way early, if she becomes a part of season 3. And what season 3 is gonna be about, who knows? A lot of people are like, how's Grogu gonna come back? And I'm like, no. Grogu's gone. That was a beautiful 2-season story arc that concluded wonderfully. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Could he have not just given her like the Darksaber and then pretended like, because only the people in that room would have known, and then they could have killed Gideon, and then no one would, and then they would have just said she fought and killed Gideon, and like that's the truth from now on.
The Mandalorians in general have these weird quirks of honor, right? Like for example,
But she takes off her helmet, so she's not that,
No, but maybe for this, she, what I mean? Like each of them have their weird quirks, right? Like maybe the Death Watch. She's
that was Mark Hamill's voice, by the way, Stress Freak, and it was an actor named Max Lloyd Jones as the actual body of Luke Skywalker, but with Mark Hamill's face and voice dubbed over.
Now I have to go watch the scene again. I love that scene so much. It's like so. It was just.
Am I the only one that truly believed Gideon when he said, "I'll let you leave with Grogu"?
Oh no!
I fell for it. No. I fell for it a little.
I was like, "Oh, he's gonna let them leave."
I knew something was up.
He's gonna go murder everyone on the bridge.
No, I knew something was up, but I don't think Mando would have left anyways. Like I think Mando would have gone to the bridge with Grogu. But whatever. I didn't think Gideon was serious. I actually thought he was gonna hurt the child, and that's what I was really afraid of. Like the whole time, the tension, and then he tries to shoot him and everything. I mean, like that kid.
He would have died if he stabbed Grogu.
I would have died. I couldn't have. I would have banned the show from my. Like it would have.
They would never go that dark. Never.
The Mandalorian, not about Grogu. Because you kind of think of the show about these two characters, but the show's about only one of them, so they could have killed him.
This show, I mean, like the show, like ultimately the show is about the Mandalorian. It did become. I don't know if they expected Grogu to be so beloved. I don't see how they couldn't have expected him to be so beloved. But again, putting him in Luke's hands is just like the perfect. It's like you put, kind of like how Disney is sparingly puts Mickey Mouse into anything, right? Like you hardly ever see Mickey Mouse appear, and that's on purpose. It's intentional. It's you kind of want these characters that are very beloved to not be over saturated, right? And so I think that's what's gonna happen. They're like, oh, we have a huge cash cow. They're still gonna sell Baby Yoda or Grogu toys. They're gonna like, and holy shit, a new Luke Skywalker toy is gonna come out. That's amazing, right? Like, so there's gonna be a lot of like things. You don't have to have follow-ups for these characters anymore. Like Grogu has kind of ascended to the hallowed heights of like Star Wars epicness, right? So I think that it's fine that he's been removed from the show. I think they're going to pull it off. I think they're going to be able to. I don't think people are going to not want to see Mandalorian anymore if there's no more baby Grogu in it.
I think we're going to see Grogu in a few years. Because now this is just like a wild theory and prediction that they're not done with the saga films. They say they are after 9. I think they're gonna announce at some point in episode 10, and Grogu is not all grown up, but much more grown up than he was.
I need a French translation. What is raison d'être?
What?
There's a French word. Stress-free K is like, what is Mando's raison d'être or d'être? I don't know what that means in French.
I don't even see that comment. Oh. His motivation?
The purpose of life.
What's his reason to live? I don't know.
I know, it's kind of hard to imagine. I think that the Mandalorian, is definitely. I think that so there's still like what PJ said. Like when we see Grogu come back, maybe he doesn't quite. Maybe he's trained and he can master his powers and he can be safe as Luke suggests, right? But maybe what he wants is to come back and be like he is a foundling. He is allowed to come back and wear the armor, perhaps one day, and maybe Grogu will become the next Mandalore. Maybe it won't be Bo-Katan. But that's just silly talk. I'm getting crazy now.
I think they're gonna say, knowing the bankability of the character, now that he's gone from the series, I think they're gonna put him in not if it's not a saga film, they're gonna put him in a film set post Rise of Skywalker, which they're not doing anything about. Like they're not moving the timeline forward at all, as far as I know. They're going like they're filling in all the years. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going past Rise of Skywalker. And I think the next time they go there, it's the perfect opportunity to have slightly grown up Grogu come in and be like, "I am here."
Did you guys notice that
and
other
like kick
than
ass? And Rey comes back.
Like, what was
maybe not.
Another interesting thing about season 2 that I liked is that I was waiting for Grogu to do that epic thing, like when he lifts the rhino, what's it called, the, or the flame. Like he didn't do
the rhino thing, yeah.
The rhino thing. He didn't do any huge force things in this except for the stormtroopers maybe, but nothing like nothing major. And he just kind of like does the thing where he like steals a cookie and stuff like that. So it was interesting that Grogu was already not using his abilities. I like that a lot about the season, that Grogu kind of like held back and wasn't the savior in a lot of situations. It really actually built the tension more because I was expecting that. I was like, oh yeah, Grogu's gonna do something, like maybe he's gonna crush the Dark Trooper, with the Force or something like that.
Oh, that was so cool, by the way.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That final move. It does make more sense that in season 1 he was a little more in tune with his powers because like he's fresh from wherever he came from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
but now he's more acclimated to just kind of being babied by Mando, so he doesn't feel the need. And on top of the fact that he's like getting his blood drained, and like in that final episode, you can assume he is very weak. And there was an episode where he was force choking some stormtroopers, which actually did make him very weak. But yeah, they didn't overplay it. They let the other characters that were introduced shine.
Yeah, I agree. It was very cool.
And so, what does Mando do now that he doesn't have Baby Yoda? Like, how does the show go on? And I'm thinking they're just gonna. I don't know if they're gonna bring in more legacy characters.
He's definitely going to join. I think now, like, the most logical thing is, like, all right, so he finished his quest and he got the kid back to his people, right? Or his kind, the Jedi. So now he's going to, maybe consider Bo-Katan's offer. Well, I mean, of course there's a complication now with the Darksaber, but I think that's the next move for Mando is to go with Bo-Katan. I think that's the most logical thing for me.
Yeah, and I think another logical path for season 3 is to really explore Bo-Katan and where she comes from and that whole Mando society that they're from, and actually go there and become immersed in it and truly become a show about Mandalorian.
Boba Fett even says the whole planet's been turned to glass. That's an interesting thing, like, because it is a desert planet. Like it's like kind of like a sandy, like a deserty planet. So whatever they did to turn the whole planet to glass, that's kind of ridiculous and crazy.
Yeah.
A glass planet.
Yeah, so we're getting that Boba Fett show, and we got a great season of Mando. I think we covered just about everything. Anybody have any final thoughts?
It's a good time to be a Star Wars fan. I think it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan. I think it's a great time to be a Star Trek fan. I'm just really enjoying all this.
Well, a Star Trek fan, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It pains me to say this, but I do believe that Star Wars is doing better now in the world of TV shows.
Oh well, yeah, like by a parsec.
I wanted to. I'm looking at like a timeline of new shows that are coming out, and from what I understand, there's a Lando show that's going to take place after the trilogy, but this is after the sequel trilogy. And there's Rogue Squadron that's coming out as well, and then there's something called Visions. These are all shows that are post the trilogy that we just got.
Oh, interesting.
Rogue Squadron is probably going to be the best because Patty Jenkins' knowledge of fighter pilots. Her dad was a fighter pilot, and she's obsessed with that stuff. And she's been desperate to make an original. It's an original story about fighter pilots that she put in the Star Wars context. So it's a really personal,
a Star Wars skin to it.
Yeah, it's a really personal film for
very
her.
Cool.
And I can't wait to see Wonder Woman 84. By the way, oh yeah.
It's true. It's
they're gonna make it available in Canada too. By the way,
Sean, is that an official timeline, or because I don't remember them saying when all these shows were going to be taking place? Like, we can assume from something Dave Filoni said that Ahsoka, the series Ahsoka, will take place after the events of season 2 of The Mandalorian. There's one called The Acolyte, which a lot of people are assuming takes place before
that's a different
Phantom Menace.
Yes,
okay.
That's way back.
Yeah, that's before Phantom. This is not an official timeline, but the person has constructed a timeline based on the information that was available from the Disney announcements. So this probably isn't like official. I can send you guys like
the shows like Lando and Obi-Wan are going to be set in a certain time, but shows like the Rangers and the Boba Fett one and the Ahsoka Tano, I think they're all going. The plan is to all set them around like in the same time, so that you have crossover potential. And
yeah, so Ahsoka, Rangers, and Mando are all in this timeline.
This is Star Wars during the
spot.
During the
that's
Arrowverse.
The assumption. Yes.
This is Star Wars during the Arrowverse, except we'll call it the Mandoverse, right?
And the beautiful thing is, Disney's not done with theatrical, by the way. Everybody was thinking like theatrical is done. That's not a thing. Like that's a thing that's happening now, but it's not going to continue. Like they're going to come back, and they're going to release films in theaters, and they're probably going to do like the big team up or the Avengers style Star Wars team up with these shows as a theatrical film that could make like a buttload of money.
It'd be great to get a Rogue One style film that fills in a lot of the gaps in information pre Force Awakens. Like I'd be very interested in that, and then I wouldn't even mind just the same way we did like the Clone Wars series that took place in between Clone Wars and the Revenge of the Sith. Like I wouldn't mind seeing a series that took place between Force Awakens.
Exactly.
Sorry, like that kind of thing. So I'm down for that.
I think there's a way to do a Luke Skywalker show after he takes Grogu, and you just make it animated. You just do an animated series or limited series.
I would enjoy that because it would give Mark Hamill a chance to, if he's interested, to reprise his role.
You'll probably get a new voice actor. You'd probably get all new voice actors, unless you bring in Kylo Ren at some point in the series, like young Kylo Ren. You might use Adam Driver if he's old enough, but you could really, like, if people are interested in seeing what Luke was up to with Leia and that whole thing, filling in those gaps.
I think people are well, at least I'm interested.
Yeah, a lot of people would be, and an animated series, but not the way they do Rebels, the CG. I'm talking about a traditional Disney style hand drawn animation, or even that kind of animation, that kind of hand drawn animation that's computer enhanced that they do in the movie Claws.
Star Wars, The Resistance does, I think, what you're talking about. I don't know if you've seen the look of that, but it looks like 2D. It's 2D.
No, not that shit. No.
Are you sure? Have you even seen?
No, yeah, I've seen.
I'm gonna have to leave you guys because my phone is going to eject me. It's gonna die, so I'm gonna be ejected.
All right, peace out.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like the, or even just traditional hand-drawn animation.
Yeah, I would love that, actually. With rotoscoping and stuff like that would be cool.
All right, we're going to leave it there. That
was a fun discussion. Thanks, PJ.
It was, and I want to thank everybody in the chat. Stress Free K, Blue Spirk. And
Earl Grey Trekkie, EGT.
And Kelpium Freedom Fighter.
Jim,
and I want to thank you and Sean for joining me.
Thank you, PJ.
And I should probably get on camera before I say goodbye. And cue up the exit video. Oh, production value.
Woo!
Until next time, folks. Live long and prosper.